So we've got a crow down there. And I'm at ISO 1000, 1/200th of a second, f4. So let's try this out. And crows aren't exactly the easiest thing to photograph because they're so dark anyway. The duck's landing well, isn't it? It's going to go. So the sun had set, just about actually, it had just gone, and there was a crow just hanging about, and I thought, you know what, the light's dropped enough now that I'm going to have to turn the ISO up or start using a tripod with a longer exposure. Even though my pivot head video glasses are showing it's been quite light, it was definitely a lot darker than, obviously, you know about doing wildlife photography and things like that, you do need a faster shutter speed. So obviously ISO 1000, 1/200th of a second, and f4. So obviously at those settings, with no sunlight anymore, I'm having to overexpose the background to get any kind of detail in the crow. The crow is so dark in colour, same as a blackbird, you know, the garden bird we see hopping around eating worms and things. You generally need to overexpose the shot generally just to show them with any detail, because they're so dark. They don't, I think they absorb light rather than reflect it. So you know, I'm probably, to get the background perfectly exposed, I probably needed like 1/300th of a second or 1/320th or something like that. But obviously I'm shooting at 1/200th of a second, ISO 1000, to obviously see any detail in the crow. This shot here, I've actually applied some noise reduction. As you can see, it still actually looks quite good. And I think the problem with today's ability that we can actually zoom in so much on the sort of detailed shots to kind of make sure, you know, this and there, we end up pixel peeping so much that we go, oh, it's a bit noisy, it's a bit grainy, but actually in the real world it's not too bad at all. You know, if you're going to print this photo, for example, at A0, you're not going to stand there with your face right up against the photo trying to work out how many pixels you can see and how grainy it is. You're going to stand back and admire it. You know, you're going to stand back 10 feet because you can see the whole image and it looks good. This shot here, obviously edited and processed with a noise reduction, and now you're seeing it change back to what it was like straight out of camera with no noise reduction. It's slightly grainier, but still not that bad. You know, I'm pretty impressed with it. The fact we have got a little bit, we can noise reduce and stuff like that in Photoshop, it does help, but I only tweak it slightly. Most of the time when I edit photos, I literally spend 30 seconds on each shot, if that. A slight rotation if I've happened to be slightly not level. Make sure the colours are correct, make sure the exposure's what I really wanted it as. And obviously the colours are pretty correct. Obviously using calibrated monitor really helps. And just not really touching the photos too much. I've way out of getting away with the over editing. One, it wastes me a lot of time, and obviously time is money, and time is your life. So I'd rather be taking more photos than actually sitting and editing too much. And really, they don't need it. You know, the cameras are so good now that replicating the real world, you know, that we don't need to touch them too much. The only downside sometimes is, obviously, if you're turning the ISO up high, that, you know, a little bit of noise reduction does help bring that sort of graininess back down. But then if you convert to black and white, it actually looks quite cool as well, being a little bit grainier. So, but like I say, the more you look at this photo and actually don't really worry about it, it doesn't look too bad at all. Everyone is a little bit skeptical of everyone else's images, and I know that because I get people who are either trolls or, you know, or probably better than me, that actually pointing out stuff. Everyone makes mistakes, and it's a case of we all need to learn from mistakes, which is absolutely fine. I'm not a big-headed person who goes, oh, you're wrong, but it's a case of obviously looking at people's comments and actually thinking, actually, you're right or you're wrong, but I could learn from that. But looking at images generally, 90% of the time on the internet, they're going on Facebook or they're going on Instagram and other social media platforms at very low quality anyway. So when people take pictures like this, you know, for YouTube or whatever, I'm not going to use them for anything else. So really, in the real world, the quality doesn't matter if it's a little bit noisy. But if you're going to print to it, you know, the Rx10 Mark IV will probably quite happily do a 8-foot print, quite happily, no real drama. But obviously, if you're going to do that, you do need the best light, or actually utilise some lighting. But obviously, things like this picture here you're looking at isn't really usable unless you're using a flash gun. But a lot of the time, photos like this are a sort of sheer chance. You might have your camera bag on your back, and you can't get the flash gun out quick enough to actually put it on and get the picture with the flash. So utilising natural light. See this one here, I've had to overexpose the sky to expose for the crow, and that's when you sort of end up with a very different photo than it could have looked with lighting added. So nothing's perfect, and the biggest issue I think with today is that everyone pixel peeps. So they're zooming in on their photos all the time because they're editing, removing things, tweaking noise and grain and all that sort of stuff. Maybe editing eyes and little blemishes here or there, or for example little flies in the picture that you might want to remove, or stuff like that. And I think we look at them zoomed in so much a lot of the time that actually you start pixel peeping and looking for things that aren't perfect. And you just got to look back 20 years, maybe slightly more, 25 years, and look at film. Look at the photos we used to produce, and they were printed, and I've been looking back recently, and some of them are bloody awful. And you think, I really actually thought that was good quality. So I think with modern digitals, they are so good and so sharp that actually we're becoming very accustomed to editing too much, adjusting too much contrast or too much clarity, and messing around with the colours too much and things like that, rather than actually just getting it right in camera, tweaking it very slightly in RAW, or even just saving it as a JPEG, or even just opening it as a JPEG, and literally, just using it straight away. And I now basically spend 30 seconds per image roughly, most of the time, and that's it. So I might crop slightly, I might rotate just to sort the image out if I've been slightly wonky, which a lot of the time it happens if you're in a bit of a rush and you've got something that's happening in front of you, like I don't know, type of wildlife or some sort of jumped out in front of you, so you quickly take the picture because you've only got literally a second to actually grab that shot, so you haven't had time to think and straighten it up and stuff before you take the photo. So lots of things that happen, but this shot here, it could have been taken in very different ways, a few different ways, and it could have looked better and it could look worse. So it's just a case of sometimes you just take the photo because it's the only way you can do it without editing too much. I could have done a silhouette shot with the crow just being a silhouette and the sky being much a nice, more blues and more of a fiery sky, but I chose to bring out the highlights of the crow there. So anyway, I could rabbit on for ages, but basically I'm just saying that we need to edit less and not worry about ISO grain too much. I think it's a big difference in a really noisy, horrible photo that's been badly taken due to the exposure being wrong, compared to actually utilising your ISO in a good way and getting the photo you actually really wanted. So I think at the end of the day, we all learn, we all progress, and hopefully we get better and better photographs as we keep taking them. So anyway, I hope that kind of helps someone with the ISO test. Most of the time in the real world we use ISO 64 to 1000, I'd say, on the average photographer. Yes, if you're going to shoot some low light, for example stars, you might be ISO 1600, 3200, which is still fine. but you know, that's to bring out obviously things like the Milky Way and things like that, and the stars a bit more. But you know, other than that, general photography most days in good light, or you know, as the sun's going down and things like that, you'd be shooting anywhere between ISO 64 and ISO 1000. And that, for me, I very rarely go above 1000, you know, for general use. So anyway, please subscribe, please click the notification bell, and any questions please ask obviously in the comments. I'm quite happy to, you know, reply to comments and things. And if you've got any tips or anything for anybody else who might need some help, that'd be cool. And other experiences. And that's it. So I shall see you soon.